Hello, my name is Rob, and today I'm going to rank every book I read in 2025. Welcome to Rob's Randoms. This is a channel where I make videos about things that interest me. I could be making some food, I could be telling you a story, or doing an art project. But today I'm going to tell you about all the books I read in 2025. So I did the same thing last year. I enjoyed making that video, and I figured I'd try and make it a tradition on this channel to just talk about every book I've read this year. So I try and read 12 books a year. I didn't manage to do that this year. I managed to read 8 and a bit, and I'm going to rank each and every one of them. So I'm going to give you a short synopsis about each of the books without giving you any spoilers, as well as the Goodreads score for it, so that you can decide for yourself if you want to skip that review and so go read that book without getting any spoilers. And then I'm going to go deep dive into my thoughts and feelings about each of the books. So let's jump in and start talking about every book I read in 2025. So as I say, there are 8 books that I read this year that I'm going to rank, but I want to talk about 2 books separately from that. So first off is this one, House of Leaves. Now this isn't being ranked because I've only just started reading it, I haven't finished it. So, quick synopsis. A man finds the insane ramblings of an old man talking about a film that might not exist, about a house that defies logic. And the Goodreads score for this book is 4.09. So as I say, I've only just started this book, so I'm not going to give a review of this, but I wanted to talk about it because I was so excited to get this book. It's been on my list for a very long time. It's such a weird, famous book online. It's all about, like, the book doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and lots of people online have got different theories about what the book means and stuff. I'm very excited about it. I'm actually starting a video where I review this book every 100 pages to kind of see where I'm at and what I think about the book. So basically, I just wanted to let you know, check back in a few months, there'll be a video of me talking about this book, but I'm really excited, and I'm only 50 pages in. I'm really enjoying it at the minute. So I just want to talk about it. And the second book I want to talk about before we get into the ranking properly is this one, Rat Scabies and the Holy Grail by Christopher Dawes. Now on Goodreads, this has got a ranking of 3.96, and a quick synopsis. A music journalist befriends the drummer of the punk band The Damned, Rat Scabies, and together they try and find the Holy Grail. Now, the reason that I want to talk about this, but it's not on the list of ranked books, is because I didn't actually finish it, which is weird because I've read this book before and I really enjoyed it. And so this year I went on holiday and I thought, oh yeah, I really fancy a light holiday read. Oh, this one, it's that fun romp about the guy befriending a punk drummer and they have some adventures and there's a little bit of history thrown in. That'll be fun. It's so much more history than I remember. Like, yes, there is some fun romps around France, but a lot of this book is just telling you the history of the Holy Grail, and it gets very dense and, frankly, very boring. There's a lot about the Freemasons, the Knights Templar, and there's a lot of history in old French books they talk about, and I just started to get really bored. I was about 2/3 of the way through, maybe 4/5, and then I just stopped and didn't really go back to it. I will probably try and finish it at some point. I don't know what it was. Maybe the first time I read this, I just kind of skimmed over that stuff and I just wanted the fun romp. But there's also lots of Holy Grail stuff I just didn't really care that much about, and it started to confuse me. So anyway, it's not on this list because I didn't finish it, but I did start to read it. And it is a good book. It's just a bit too dense on the history stuff for me. Right, now let's start properly ranking every book I read in 2025. So the 8th best book I read this year is this one, The Rift by Nina Allen. So, quick synopsis of this book. A girl goes missing as a child and then mysteriously turns up again 20 years later. On Goodreads, this has got a review of 3.35. So, I was interested in this book because it's about a child goes missing, turns back up 20 years later. There's an interesting mystery there. But there's also this heavy sci-fi element where she says, oh, what happened is I disappeared as a child and I went to a different planet and I was living there for 20 years, but now I've come back. And so it becomes about her sister meeting her again and is overwhelmed with these emotions, which is interesting. And then she hears this story of her sister saying, I've been abducted, I went to a different planet. And her sister is conflicted whether or not to believe her. And that's interesting. It's just that so much of the book says, no, that actually happened. And here's so much history about this other planet. There is so much lengthy descriptions of geographical places that you don't visit, or like historical documents from other planets that really don't matter. It was very boring, frankly. All the stuff about sci-fi, so dull. And then it ends on this weird cliffhanger about what actually happens to the planet, what's going to happen in the future, and it doesn't give you a straight answer. And I think the book is kind of like, oh, what do you think happened? Oh, isn't that interesting to pick your own adventure? But no, it just comes across as lazy, like the author went, I don't know what to say. Let's just say, oh, what do you think happened? And then end it. It really annoyed me. That's why this is quite so low down. The characters are interesting. The whole thing about a sister discovering her daughter, her sister who comes back 20 years later, that was whole interesting. But then the sci-fi stuff just did not engage me whatsoever. Next on the list, number 7, is The Butterfly Garden by Don Hutchinson. So, short synopsis, a woman is kidnapped and taken to an isolated garden with dozens of other women who have also been kidnapped. And on Goodreads, this has got a score of 4.09. So yes, this is quite a dark thriller, I suppose, about a guy kidnapping women, taking them to an isolated garden, and letting them live there free in this garden, except that he essays them and tattoos them, and at a certain point he's going to kill them, and it's all about how these women like live there and how they accept their fate and stuff. But it's not really about that. It's a silly, dumb thriller. You really have to suspend disbelief to kind of accept anything that's happening. And I did quite like the setting. I quite like the idea if you just accept, fine, this is going on. Now, it's told in 2 different points. There is everything that's happening in the garden, and then after they all escape, one of the characters is being interviewed by the police, and that's kind of the framing device. But the mystery there is that the woman they're interviewing doesn't tell them everything. She's being very cagey and shy and doesn't really want to say everything that happened. And so the police are left wondering throughout the whole book, oh, like there's more to this story. It's like she's not telling us everything. The book tells us she is an unreliable narrator. What else is there? Was she part of it? Is there something else interesting that happened that she's not telling us? And then the book ends and literally no, none of that happens. She's just stupid. The book ends and they're like, oh, okay, that's all fine. Like there is no extra mystery there whatsoever. It just wraps up in a nice bow and it's completely unearned. The ending of this book is dreadful and I hate it. Next on the list, number 6, is The Great When by Alan Moore. So, quick synopsis, this book is about an 18-year-old living in London after the Blitz of World War II, but then he discovers a magical other London, and it's all about his adventures through that. And the score on Goodreads is 3.58. So this book took me a long time to get into. There is something about the way Alan Moore writes in this book that is so dense in description and adjectives, I just got confused with every single sentence. I did read this when I had the flu, which probably didn't help. So yeah, it took me a while to get into, but once I kind of adjusted to the writing style, I really got into this book. I really enjoyed it, even though, like, magical stuff really isn't my kind of thing. So the idea is that this kid works at a bookshop, and one of the books gets sold, I think, but it's a magical book, and he has to go get it back, and that takes him into Other London, which is where that book rightfully belongs, and Other London is this magical, fantastical world that's full of very weird, dark, scary elements. Other London was a very strange thing that I didn't really enjoy that much. Magic isn't really my thing, but everything set in like the real world I thought was very interesting. I like the characters. He befriends a sex worker and they become friends and he stays there for a little bit, but like their friendship is constantly a little bit tense. Like she doesn't really trust him. He is constantly trying to get with her. And they don't end up together at the end of the book, which I loved. And in fact, the book highlights how stupid that is. Like, she's like, no, I don't want to be with you. That's never been a thing. And I like, because books never really have that element. Like, they have to have the romance stuff. And this book just doesn't do that. She's just like, no, I'm not interested in you. We're friends. Why are you trying to make this more than that? It's a nice little thing that they added. So yeah, I did enjoy this book, although I'm probably not going to read the rest of the series, just because I don't think I'd understand it, frankly. Next up on the list, number 5 for my favourite books I read this year, A Street Cat Named Bob by James Bowen. So, short synopsis, a busking musician who is overcoming a heroin addiction finds a faithful companion in a street cat. That street cat, he's called Bob. And the score on Goodreads for this book is 3.99. So this was probably one of the lightest and easiest reads I had this year because it's not written by a novelist, it's written by this guy. He's just telling this story after he kind of went viral and the cat became famous. He decided to write this book. And it reads like that. It reads like this guy telling you a story. Now, I said a second ago that it was a light read. That's in terms of like the complexity of the wording, not the tone and atmosphere. This is quite a dark book in places. It's about this guy experiencing homelessness and heroin addiction and trying to get himself clean. But in the end, it's a very nice, heartwarming story of how he finds the street cat, finds his like soulmate in the street cat, and they are just best friends, and it's a lovely story. And yes, Bob is the loveliest little cat. So next up, number 4 on my list of my favourite books I read this year, 0 stars, do not recommend, by MJ Wassmer. So, quick synopsis of this book. A couple is enjoying a stay at an all-inclusive hotel when the sun explodes. And the Goodreads score for this book is 3.64. So I was so excited to read this book just from that synopsis. What a fun, silly concept, I thought, of being at an all-inclusive hotel when the sun explodes. Such an unexpected, strange apocalypse, but also being at an all-inclusive hotel. It's such rife with opportunities and adventure ideas or just silly jokes. I thought it was going to be full of stuff like, is there still going to be a line at the buffet when the sun has gone out? Or like, do the rules change about using the pool at night when it's always night? That sort of thing, you know? So I took this on holiday with me thinking this will be a nice, fun, easy holiday read. And it definitely starts off like that. So it's about this couple at this all-inclusive hotel. He's a bit of a doofus. He's making lots of silly jokes. Their relationship is a bit strained and you kind of think, it's going to be a romantic kind of story. And then the sun explodes. And then very quickly it turns into a book about class war. Because everyone who is at the place divides into the rich lot and everybody else. And then it becomes a whole thing about like rationing food and forced labour. And it's such a serious political book. I was so not ready for it. And like, look at this cover. That is not the cover that suggests, this is going to be a serious look about politics and class warfare. Like, this was not what I was expecting. So that's why it's at number 4. It just wasn't what I was expecting or wanting, but it's still pretty good. Number 3 on my list is Queer by William S. Burroughs. So, quick synopsis. This is the story of a horny, queer, but aimless young man living in Mexico in the 1950s. And on Goodreads, it has a score of 3.49. I love the works of William S. Burroughs, although I don't really know why. So Naked Lunch is absolute batshit, and his Book of Dreams is the same, although to be fair, that is literally a dream journal, so that kind of makes more sense. However, he also wrote Junkie, which I love. It's one of my favourite books. I looked for it, I don't know where it is, I do have it somewhere. But that's basically just his story of having a heroin addiction, living in Mexico in the 1950s. It's fascinating. Now, Queer was originally written to be part of Junkie. It was like the second part of the book, but that then got rejected, and so eventually this was published on its own. But I think the reason I like it is because it's written at the same time about basically the same character in the same style. I still really liked it. So the story is about this guy feeling aimless, being queer, and bar hopping, going around sleeping with guys, just trying to connect with people and failing. But the issue is the book itself feels aimless. That's the point. It's about him. He feels aimless, but the book just like goes from place to place. He talks to it, he does stuff. There's no real story. It's just him and the way he lives until the end of it, where he kind of convinces this guy he's been sleeping with, who he's not really into it. He convinces him to go on a trip with him to go into the jungle and try and find some drugs. Like, it's a very weird story. And even that doesn't really go anywhere. It's all just aimless of him trying to connect with people and failing. It's a very sad book. And if I had read this as a queer teenager, I would have fucking loved it. I still really like it now, but now I'm just reading it as a novel and kind of being like, but what's the point? And like the end of this novel comes out of nowhere, but not in a good way. It's him sat in a room being sad. He looks at the curtains and then the book ends. That's it. It doesn't have all of the weird imagery that some of his later books does. It's just quite an honest, open piece about being queer at the time, even though I think William S. Burroughs didn't ever call himself gay or anything like that. He was kind of against it. Well, no, William S. Burroughs was a dick, but I love his writing. So number 2 of my favourite books I read this year was A Christmas Carol, which I don't have a physical copy of. I read it on my ancient Kindle, so that's what I'm going to use to represent it. Quick synopsis. Do I need this? You know what A Christmas Carol is about. Grumpy old guy, a bunch of ghosts convince him to not be a grumpy old guy. There's no Muppets in this version, sadly. And the Goodreads score for this is 4.09. So A Christmas Carol is becoming a tradition of mine to read it every year because I just love it so much. It's the best Christmas story. It's such a wonderful, heartwarming thing. And it's a very short story. It's like 100 and something pages. Very quick. I read it in 2 weeks. I'm a slow reader. But it's something you can just read every year. It's such a good book. One of my issues with the book is that because it's so old, some of the language doesn't really translate anymore. And because of the way it's told, like Dickens is actually talking to us. He's not just narrating, he's actually speaking to us directly. And so some of that gets quite confusing and I have to look up some of the things to kind of be like, sorry, what is Dickens trying to say there? So there's a scene very early on in the story where Scrooge's nephew Fred comes to visit him and says, "Have Christmas dinner with me tomorrow." And then the book says, Scrooge said he would see him. Yes, indeed he did. He went the whole length of that expression and said he would see him in that extremity first. So I had to look that up because I did not understand what he was trying to say there. And basically, Dickens is saying, Scrooge said, "I'll see you in hell first." But Scrooge is saying, that's such a rude thing to say. I don't want to put it down on paper, so I'm just going to imply it, which is an interesting technique. It's just I did not understand that's what he was trying to say. But I just love this book so much. It's such a happy, heartwarming story of Scrooge realizing that he has to let people in and that life is about the people you spend it with and just becoming a lovely, happy person again. It's such a good story. But I can't put this as my favourite book of the year because if I'm reading it every year, it's probably going to be my favourite book of every year. But I had to put it in this one because I read it like last week. I finished this and it's still in my brain. I love it so much. Such a good book. And so now we come to my favourite book I read in 2025, which is Devolution by Max Brooks. Quick synopsis, this is a found footage novel, found writing maybe, about a group living out in the forest when there is a natural disaster. And then while they are dealing with that, they also find out they are being hunted. On Goodreads, this has a score of 3.9. So the reason I picked this up is because it's Max Brooks. I love his work. He wrote the Zombie Survival Guide, which is like my comfort book. I have read that so many times. I don't know why I love it so much. He also wrote World War Z, or Z, which is a fantastic found writing novel that has nothing to do with the film World War Z that came out, that dreadful film with Brad Pitt. It's got nothing to do with the novel. So I read those books because they are about zombies and then realised that Max Brooks is a very good writer and became a fan, so I decided to read this. However, this is not about zombies. So as I say, this book is about a group of like eco-warriors living out off the grid in nature, and they've got solar panels and stuff, but the idea is that they're all just rich people like living out a fantasy. They still get deliveries of food and stuff. They're not really living out in nature. It's not really a commune. And then there is natural disasters, earthquakes or something. They actually get cut off. And then it becomes they have to try and survive like without electricity. They have to try and grow their own food. They have to ration stuff. They have to come up with like a social order that works. It's a really interesting thing. But then they also start getting hunted by Sasquatches. Bigfoot, Yeti, you know the thing. And so then it kind of becomes this weird supernatural thing of actually being hunted by a primitive but powerful enemy. Very strange novel. You, again, really have to suspend disbelief. But I really got into it. I really enjoyed this book. It's very fun, which is a weird thing to say. My main issue with it is that all the stuff about trying to survive, there's a whole bit in this about growing their own garden, like using seeds to actually grow stuff. But then they get attacked and all of that goes out the window. And it was building up for like 100 pages. Oh, are they actually going to try and like survive the winter with what they've got? Oh, never mind, they've been attacked. Ignore all that. And it just goes away and it really frustrated me. But then instead what we get is some like thrilling set pieces of action where they're being like hunted and attacked by Sasquatches and they have to like outthink them. So yes, this was my book of the year. I really enjoyed this. You have to be able to suspend disbelief. You have to be into supernatural kind of stuff. But it was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I have to say that one thing I've learned from this is that the Goodreads scores didn't really match up with my own opinions of the books. Which just goes to show you like Goodreads scores, if they were like from 3.5 to 5, they're not really that helpful. Anything below 3.5, I would kind of go, yeah, that doesn't seem like a very good book. But anything that is over 3.5, you have to make a judgment call. Does it sound like something you're going to enjoy? If so, read it, but don't rely on that score over that point. It doesn't really make sense. So this was really fun, even if I only managed to read 8 books this year. I will try and aim for 12 next year, and I look forward to doing this video again then. As I said earlier, I will be doing a video with my thoughts and opinions on House of Leaves as I'm going through it, so look out for that when I finish it in a few months' time. If you've got any recommendations of books, please let me know in the comments. I would love to know what you think I should read. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Rob. Click like and subscribe, and I will see you in another random video next week.